Hello everyone, I'm Tommy Norman, Chief Agility Officer at agile2022, and today I'm here with Linda Rising.
Wow, thanks.
Thanks so much for coming with us. Linda now is a Nashvilleian in our own backyard.
Sort of a Mount Julian.
Mount Julian, close
Mount
enough.
Julian,
We're going to
yes.
count you. We're going to claim you,
Thank you.
as a Nashvilleian.
Thank you.
A heck of a recorder player.
Absolutely.
That's right. And an expert on organizational change, how our brains work, always something new and exciting in there.
I think of myself as a learner, maybe more than an expert, but happy to talk about it.
Absolutely, and I've heard so many great things. The stories with data is one that always stuck with me that I use a lot. There's so many things I got out of Fearless Change. That book, when I read that was a great book. So
Thanks.
There's so many things going on that
Thank you.
I love.
It's in the bookstore, by the way.
There
upstairs.
We go. Absolutely,
Yeah.
Plug that away. So just a quick interview. We want to just talk about, what are you talking about now? There always seems to I know you have this general area, but there seems to be a rise and fall of things that we're more interested in a certain topic. So what is the thing you're talking about right now?
I think right now I'm sort of looking at a sub-focus of how your brain works, which is something I've been interested in now for over 10 years, that we need as an Agile community and as a community in general to be able to do a better job of talking to each other. And so I just gave a talk in Detroit about regarding your mind as a rider on an elephant, where the elephant is the large unconscious emotional piece that makes all of our decisions. And how do you talk to that elephant? So a better way of communicating, a better way of understanding,
right?
Not just somebody who's in your neighborhood or somebody in your family, but somebody on your team, your customer, your users, your clients, everybody.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So at each Agile conference, there always seems to be kind of, what's the scuttlebutt, the new theme. Like, Scrum was there for a while, and then Scale, and then Lean and psychological safety. What are you thinking the themes are starting to be for this one and the ones moving forward?
Well, I'm biased. I only see what I see,
right.
Just like the rest of us. And I was happy to notice that there are several sessions here that are finally talking about evidence-based approaches. So some real measurement, some real data, maybe not a randomized, controlled experiment, but some attempt to have some sort of collection of evidence that we can use. Not that that's convincing, but you want to have it in your back pocket. And you also want to have the feeling that we are headed in the right direction. So maybe you wouldn't use that as something to convince somebody who was resistant to Agile, but to understand a better way for doing whatever it is that we're trying to do, we've got to have some science.
Right.
And there are some sessions here, and I'm planning to attend them and enjoy them and learn from them.
Fantastic. And I remember you've been talking about that for a while. I remember at Music City Agile, you came in and talked about, you dared ask the question, is this actually working? Is it actually better than what we were doing before?
How do we know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Could just be placebo.
That's true. I mean, we like Agile and we want it to work, but is it really working? Does it really make the changes you want?
Yep, absolutely. So I think it fits with what I've been thinking about.
Perfect.
Indeed.
So what do you think in the next couple of years we're going to be talking about? What do you think the next thing is? Or where is Agile moving as it kind of evolves?
Well, the goal should be to disappear.
Okay.
So we saw that happen with almost every approach that has ever been used in software. I don't know how far back you go, but not as far as I do.
Yeah.
And way back in the day, there were a lot of bandwagons, and people got excited. And people thought, well, this will solve all our problems. And then everyone we did it. We adopted a design process. Back in the day, there wasn't one.
Right.
So wouldn't it be good to have design? Wouldn't it be good then to have architecture? Well, wouldn't it be good to have some sort of structure to your programs instead of just this long code with go-tos? But after a while, those bandwagons were accepted practice. Nobody really got excited about it anymore. Everybody was doing it. We all had design. We all had architecture. We were all using some kind of structured program. And if Agile is really going to be something that means something, it will just be the way we do things. And it won't be something where we even need to have a conference. We saw that with object-oriented approaches. It came, it got everybody excited. It was good, it contributed, but there's no OO conference anymore. Uppsala was as big as this conference was in the 2000s, and it's gone. It just disappeared. Not because we don't do it, not because it didn't have something to say, not because there wasn't a contribution there, but because, well, it's accepted practice. We all do it. It's not really anything people get excited about anymore. And we've kept Agile going now for quite a while with, okay, maybe we can look at Kanban. Oh, maybe we can look at these other issues that are tangent. But Agile itself, it might be, and maybe that should be a good thing. Maybe that should be the goal. It should be accepted. Like patterns, we don't really have much in the way of patterns conferences anymore. So it's what people do.
So the future is there's not Agile conferences anymore. There are just conferences that Agile is a part of because it's so ingrained in what we do. It's no longer a thing that has to stand alone on itself. It's built into the system.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even here now, there are lots of topics that are under the heading of Agile, but they're really about, like the keynote this morning was having empathy for the various people you're working for. Well, would you need to have Agile for that? Or what are we doing? Are we just propping up Agile with other things so that we can keep the conference going for the sake of the conference? Maybe it will be something that's absorbed part of our DNA. This is how we do things. It's not a topic for discussion anymore.
It does seem, sometimes you hear that kind of as modern Agile, quote unquote, as a lot of things of bringing in teamwork, team building, organizational building and things like that. That's been around for a while, but now is saying, especially with Agile processes, when people would bring in Scrum and say, oh, it butts up against this and now it's not working. It's all that organizational change that we talk about all the time. That is now, I think maybe that's what's meeting it to maybe give it over that hump.
Yeah.
Once you have that to where the organizational change is always happening, then Agile is just part of the nature of what you do.
And there's no need to have, a big discussion about organizational change. I don't know if you remember, there was an IEEE paper that was written by Craig Larman and Victor Basili, and it traced all of the elements of Agile back to some original source. And every single piece of it could be explained in that way. So it wasn't that Agile brought to the table some startlingly new way of doing things. It just pulled it all together and labeled it Agile. And people could come into the Agile space and say, well, I used to do pair programming. We didn't call it pair programming, but we sure did that. Stand-ups. I'm not sure that we use that term, stand-up, dailies, but we sure did that. And that's true for every element. So there's nothing really startlingly new. It's the packaging and the calling to the attention of people who are new, who might not know their history. That's a problem we face. We don't always know our history. To say, look, this is something that has worked. Let's try it with and in conjunction with other pieces that have also had success. And we're going to call it Scrum or XP or then Agile. Agile wasn't around in the beginning. If you'll remember, the early 90s was Scrum and XP and other flavors. Agile, and even the notion of Agile came later.
Not until the manifesto kind of really codified everything together.
That's right. And even those people, they hadn't, who knows what they had in their minds. Mostly, I think, having a good time.
True. I hear some stories.
Yeah. So who knows? And out of it just happened to, like a lot of happy accidents, the path that led to Agile. So it's certainly interesting,
Absolutely.
but where will that path lead? And what will it be like? What will the world be like? I mean, if you had asked anyone in early 2020, what will the world be like, say, at the end of the year or
We
at the
all
end
got
of
that
2 years?
wrong.
Who would have known? Who would even have guessed?
Right.
So, and I'm not very good at that anyway. You'd think as old as I am, I'd be better at it, but I'm not.
Well, it's good to be surprised a little bit every now and then.
Well, there's surprise, and then there's surprise. So,
True.
yeah, we're
Different levels.
facing a new variant every day, or now it's, and I love animals. So the idea of monkeypox, that's just really sad. I can't think about it.
I definitely saw a lot of remote working. How do you get distributed teams and things like that? That seems to be a theme that's been the last 2 years.
Oh,
Everybody
gosh, yes.
now got thrown into that.
Yes.
Ackland has been remote from day one, so
Yes.
we kind of rolled with it.
Yes.
But a lot of people struggled with that. So I know that's a big topic lately as
Absolutely. And now, even though that's radical change, you see what happens to people when they don't have a choice. We must do this. We cannot all get together. And what came out of that and how people felt and how hard it was. Right. And now the reverse, going back. Going back is so much harder when all along we've been saying, oh, we want to go back. We're all laggards. We want to go back to the way it was. And now we could go back, but we don't know whether we want to go back or not.
Right. And we'll probably find hopefully some happy medium. There's always going to be a reason to be in front of someone, and
Sure.
face-to-face communication is the best way to communicate. But
absolutely,
being able to be remote, have people from anywhere, get the best talent,
Yep.
have options and things like that, is not a bad thing. But it comes,
Yep.
it's always a trade-off.
Yep. So absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see.
And I think Nashville, since we both live in Nashville, is seeing the benefit of a lot of that because people are moving here from
droves.
California,
Yes.
from the East Coast, because we have a good quality of living. It's inexpensive here compared to other places. It's not rural exactly, but Nashville is a small city.
Yep.
We have a lot of the big city advantages, but we don't have the pressure or the high prices of a New York City or a San Francisco or a Boston. So you can see that reflected in housing prices and who's moving in here. It's good for us, I think.
Some of it.
Some of it is good
I would hate for us to get to the point where we are that big city that has all those problems.
Well, you see that in Mount Juliet, the little town where I moved 11 years ago is now huge. Big shopping center, lots of traffic and all kinds of people. Yeah, so there's a downside there. We live in interesting times.
And there's always change.
Always change. Absolutely.
Well, Linda, thank you so much for taking time for us.
It's been my pleasure.
Do you have anything that you would like to call attention to? Any way you want to point where people can find you?
You can go to my website, which is Linda Rising, and it's .org, because back in the day, that was all that was available, and I didn't want to change it. So lindarising.org, and I am out and about. I've been to Detroit and Chicago and Orlando, and now I'm going to a conference in my own hometown.
There you go.
Yeah, the world is opening up, and it's a little scary, but I think it's going to happen.
All right. Thank you so much, Linda.
My pleasure.